Yeah, fair use. Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976 allowance is made for fair use for the purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Fair use is used permitted by copyright. Fair use is for educational purposes. I am not making any money.
Who cares about any color? Who gives a shit about any nationality? The only thing that you need to fucking concentrate and worry about is that the United States of America is respected. How do you respect the United States of America? These fucking illegal immigrants, all these foreigners that hate us, you think they respect the United States of America? They tell you, oh, I love America, I love America. No, motherfuckers, they're taking your welfare. They're taking advantage of your food stamps. They're taking advantage of your health care. They don't love you. They don't respect you. They just abuse you. They use you and they throw you away. Laugh behind your back.
Obadiah chapter 1, verse 7. All the men of thy confederacy have brought thee even unto the borders. Right? Because you're at the end of Esau's rulership. Right? The end of America. You're 250 years, is spiraling down to your demise. It says the men that were at peace with thee have deceived thee, right? This is guys talking about the migrants come in and this and that. So they all these other nations were at peace. They were saying this and that, but this is a part of what's it called? Destabilizing a country, right? Breaking it down, right? They know it puts strain. It puts financial strain to send the migrants, to get them the health care, this and that, and you giving it to them, over giving it to so-called black people, right? See, you put us as the face of welfare, but the ultimate true face of welfare is Amalek, the small hatters, the Jewish, right? And they're definitely taking your welfare and laughing at you, right? Because you mentioned migrants, but you would guarantee you wasn't thinking about the Jewish, right? Which is the main recipient of that, the main one who's laughing and don't give a damn about what happens to America, right? While they go to college for free off of your dollars, right? While your military don't have ammunition, looking like out there as sitting ducks with no ammunition, but yet expects America to fight for them. So it says, have deceived them and prevailed against them, right? Yeah, because America's done. That's a way to prevail when you got sleeper cells, which are going to get activated here in America, and you're gonna feel the pain that everybody else has felt throughout all these years that America has been going over to the Middle East. You're gonna know what it's like to get your schools, all girls school blown to smithereens, right? Yeah, your whole life is about to change. So they have prevailed against thee. They that ate thy bread have laid a wound. See, and that's those sleeper cells. Those sleeper cells are going to lay a wound to you, right? And even also, using the welfare, it laid a wound to you. Now you don't have no money. Your system is depleted, so that lays a wound, under thee, and there is none understanding in him. See, and you don't even understand what you're even saying, because you're some set up coconut, man, to spill a rhetoric of Esau Edom, your enemy, right? And it doesn't matter if you're a Republican or Democrat. You are set up to be a coconut, man. Spill the rhetoric of them who hate you, right? If you're not speaking of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, if you're not speaking the spirit of Yahushai, which is prophecy, and prophecy is for this place to be destroyed, discontinued forever, right? It's gonna be a desert. It's gonna turn into the lake of fire, and when the lake of fire, the fire finally smolders out and it calms down, it's just gonna be a desert. This is Ecclesiastes 12:1. It says, "Remember now thy Creator." Yeah, so Ecclesiastes 12:1. Remember now thy Creator in the day of thy youth, right? Because you so-called Black, Hispanic, and Native Indians are the Israelites, right? You need to stop being coconuts for the so-called white man, and that's for the Northern Kingdom and the Southern Kingdom, because you are both brown on the outside, but you're acting like an Edomite on the inside, right? Doing the biddings of Satan, So so-called Latinos for Trump, so-called black for Trumps, and both of you are brown, but you're acting like a coconut, man, right? And it says, while the evil days come not. See, there's this thing called grace, and the grace period is about to run up. Grace don't mean you could do whatever you want, right? And you're already saved. That's not the grace period means. The grace period means to get yourself together, because the decree is about to come forth, which is the judgment is about to break forth, right? Because that's why the Lord said, while the evil days come not, right? Evil meaning what? A bad time. So it's about to be a bad time called Jacob's trouble, right? And what? They're gonna show their attitude towards this place. Well, Esau's gonna show his horn, and his those who come up against him, those who were his friends, those who were that confederate against him, and they're gonna lay a wound. They're gonna tell him, they're gonna let him know, yeah, we ate your bread, but we don't care. We don't care about you. You didn't care about us, right? You puffed up at us, right? You were showing that you were more stout than your fellows. So why should we care about you? It says nor the years draw nigh, right? When the time was good. But as you could slowly see that things are not good, right? Businesses are going out of business. Salad and Gold just went out of business the other day, right? And I believe that's because of it's kind of strange that happened right after Fauci's been in the news here and there, and then even what's his name, Bill Gates of hell, right? It's been out there, speaking about water shortages and pleading the fifth. So the evil days, Jacob trouble is it's near, right? Nor the days, the years draw, nor the years draw near. But see, we're at the time where the years are near, right? Then thou shalt say, I have no pleasure in them, right? See, you're going to have no pleasure in the time to come. You're going to be able to have mirth, because that's what the Lord's taken out of this place. The Lord is withdrawing the mirth from the earth, right? Says while the sun and the light, or the moon, right? The light being what the Israelites, right? While the truth is out there, right? Because the sun already has its own light, right?
or the light, right? Well, you know, the light being what? The Israelites, right? The truth is out there, right? Because once the Lord removes the elect, or all bets are off. Well, once the Lord take off his veil, off or his hands from what do you call it, from what do they call the Salakia, the grace period. Hey, all hell is about to break loose, or the moon, right? Because the moon has a light, so it got to be speaking of the Israelites, right? Because that's that light that's in the earth is Israel. Because once the sun is no longer shining, the Israelites are no longer here. The moon or the stars, right? Because the stars has its own light, the moon has its own light. So what light would that be? Would have to be the Israelites. Be not darkened, nor the clouds return after the rain, right? Because it's going to come a time of drought, pestilence, right? Hey man, it's about to be crazy, and if it do rain, it's gonna over rain. It's gonna flood. You're gonna have all these different polar opposites, and the freaky weather that's gonna be happening. And Esau try to give credit to global warming or whatever this the stuff that they want to come up with, just so they can bait you in to make you pay more money, and so they can put you on a carbon footprint, right? So they can control you, right? And it says but this is the point right here. It says in the day when the keepers of the house, right? See, and that's what it is, because that's where we're at. We're in the day when the keepers of the house shall tremble, saying they're ultimately trembling because what? They're seeing the multiple sightings of the chariots, the multiple Israelite camps that's out there in the four winds all over the earth. The multiple prophecies that's coming to pass, because they're going to their prognosticators, their soothsayers, their prophets and things on the left hand side, and they're saying, hey, yeah, what they're saying in that Bible, the scripture, yeah, it's right here. Yeah, that's actually happening. So what do we do? And they're trying to tell them, the best thing they could do, in trying to combat it, but then it always comes short, because you could do nothing against the truth but for the truth. So every time they do something, the truth comes out more in the forefront. Their lies are brought bare, made naked before the earth, right? And right, basically they just have to go to war. They have to try to, commit to this World War III, which is ultimately prophecy. And the strong men shall bow themselves. See, they're gonna go out to war, and they're strong men. Hey, even then they're gonna lose. They're gonna be afraid. They're gonna see Yahweh Shai and be afraid. But yes, there's fight, right? And see, that's the time that you're living in, time of World War III. It says, and the grinders, right, cease, right? The jobs. See, as you see, the AIs coming in, right? And people are losing jobs, right? The food is not there. And then the food that you do have, it's not really food, right? So it's all synthetics and plastics, things that give you the big C word, which they have you wear pink and stuff for October every year, right? Because it's more than just for your breast, right? The C word is for, for all different things, testicular and this, that, and throat and thyroid and all sorts of things. Hey, you've never heard of anyone back in the day said, "Oh, my thyroid," but this is these things that they brought to the forefront, the forward thing through what's her name, Oprah. Remember, Oprah said she had a so-called thyroid problem, but that was just fugazi, man. That's just putting things. And now all of a sudden, people are catching all sorts of madness, man. Can't get your diet together. Wonder why you can't. You're trying to do this, Hey, man, it's even hard to be a vegan, bro. Right? This devil does all sorts of things, man. To the plant life, the life in itself. This is why you're going to be destroyed. He who have destroyed the earth shall be destroyed. But yes, it's in the grinders cease because there are few, right? And ain't no workers. The grinders cease. Ain't no work. And those that look out the windows be darkened, right? There's no future. There's no future in AI with military trained robots that can, unalive you, right? Without any food, any water, without any type of provision, and this devil with an insatiable appetite should just control the globe to put cameras on all the streets too, so he can surveil you, to cut the trees out, just so he can surveil you, right? Yeah, so this is but Ezekiel chapter 28, verse 3, behold, which means feast your eyes, look, pay attention, thou art wiser than Daniel, there is no secret that they can hide from thee, right? Because what Esau is stepping into what the fourth industrial revolution, right, which is about to connect the fifth industrial revolution, right, the man with the machine, right? So, like I said, they're going to do this great surveillance. There's nothing that you can hide from them, right? But even going back into the time where, Esau know all these things exist. They're the ones who, what was it, 1980, was it 83, that found Noah's Ark. They found Noah's Ark. So they know that the Bible's real. It's just, they just refuse to actually really, believe in God, because then themselves think that they're God. Yeah, so this is Ezekiel chapter 28, verse 3. Behold, which means feast your eyes, look, pay attention. Thou art wiser than Daniel. Speaking of Esau, he's wiser than Daniel. There is no secret that they can hide from thee, right? Because they're going into the Palantir stage, right? Surveillance stage. So there's going to be nothing you can hide. There's going to be no more working and getting paid under the table. You know what I mean? You will own nothing, be happy. There's nothing you can hide from them, right? And this also goes back into the time where, he have his archaeologists, dig up things, going back into the time of I think it was 1983. They found the Noah's Ark, and scripture say he does a diligent search, right? Searches out the things, see if they're right, but he searches out you Israelites, see if he can manipulate you so you could be a coconut, you brown Israelites, and you other ones that's a darker brown, but you're still brown, many shades of brown, which even you all go from a dark complected brown to a lighter shade of brown, or even to where you look pale. But he will have you hate your own people, right? It's called divide and conquer. Divide you from the northern kingdom, so-called Latinos, Native Americans, the Latin tribes, from the southern kingdom, so-called Negro tribes, but then have you even within yourselves fighting within yourselves, which which is not hard to do because the Lord put forth that curse. It's a curse that your eyes shall be evil towards your brother, right? So it's not difficult. See, the only way you can have that is when you come back unto Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, where you're not going to have an eye evil towards your brother. And if you do, you're going to repent. You're going to change, because this is not that kind of party, right? King David could have slew Saul, right? Saul already had the evil spirit on him, everything, bro. But he didn't do it. He couldn't do it. As his brother, especially being having that anointing from the Father on him, the elect, right? Touch none of the Lord's elect, It says with thy wisdom and with thy understanding thou hast gotten great riches, right? Because this speak of Tyre, but Esau is also spiritually known as Tyre, and they have gotten themselves what great riches by this technology, certain things that they do. They could use the satellites and X-ray imaging and certain things to find different places to that's wealth, has wealth in the earth. They fight smaller nations, basically people that they can bully around, and they'll basically take their oil and their resources, right, until they bid a formidable foe like Iran, and now they're sitting ducks in the water with no ammunition. But then again, it's all a stage too, because we know that them through their power, they're gonna shut down the world, right? They're gonna say, hey, there's no logistics of commerce. There's no shipping. You know what I mean? And then the Houthis in the Yemen, they shut off the Red Sea. So it's going to be hard to get anything. Meanwhile, they're going to be pushing the micro sea hip, which all these nations are already prepared. They all have 15-minute cities. So I mean, how much of this fighting do you believe is actually real? Not to say the deaths and things are not real, because I guess they initially have to, exchange actual fighting and real weaponry. But then, the elites, the top people who's never going to get fired upon, are sitting, at some place, eating some real food, eating actual real lamb with real, asparagus and real thing, not these GMO foods. Not the lab grown meat, right? Some glue meat, right? Some frankenfish, they're not eating those things. They're eating the real things, right? But they have gotten themselves thou has gotten great riches, right? Great rob and murder throughout the whole entire globe. They've got themselves great riches, and a great rich is a slave, especially one willingly, to fight for their master. Master, are we sick? This like I said, this coconut right there speaking, speaking against other immigrants, speaking of this and that, speaking, well, you have to see the whole thing. He's telling you, if you don't like them, go home. But ain't that what they tell you? Right? But you're paid, It says, and has gotten gold and silver into thy treasures, right? And that's what they're doing. They're heaping up treasures for the last days. And ultimately, it's for the children of Israel, for the elect, for the nation of Israel. But they got riches. They got spoiled. They got the riches. They the Bilderbergs, the DuPonts, the Gettys, the Oppenheimers, the Rothschilds. They go back to that old money, going back into the 11th century, 12th century, 13th century, old money. The first money they robbed from Jake, and when we ruled Europe, the old money that they took from King James, right? They're rich. Then not to mention what the transatlantic slave trade. Oh, right here, it says by great wisdom, and by what? By thy traffic, right? See, traffic. What people, right? Trafficking gold and jewels and different things, but people, children, slaves, the sex slave, right? All these different things. Child peddle slaves, right? By traffic. Not to mention the cars, the jewelry, the different things, the airplanes, the this, that, everything, right? But now they're saying that thing it's all at a halt. It's all at a halt, and then the only way you can get any of these services is to have the micro C hip, because we're gonna join together as the world, so the world can solve this problem. It says, and has thou increased thy riches, and thy heart is lifted up because of thy riches. See, and that's going into them. Yeah. Their heart is lifted up. Now it's like, hey, look, I got everything. And what else did you get when you have everything? Now you need the souls of men. Now you need to be able to have complete surveillance. Yeah, so this is Psalms 10:7. It says, his mouth is full of cursing and deceit, right? Because they're always speaking against the Lord, right? It's cursing, right? Speaking against the Lord. Oh, is there really a God? Does he really exist? If there is a God, then God must be dead, because I'm rich, right? And that's what the riches, he has, made him lift himself up. No, well, I'm God, right? I'm going to put surveillance in everything. I'm going to cause so-called JC-like miracles for people to be healed, right? And under his tongue is mischief and vanity, right? And that's this whole thing. Everything about America is stuff that you're just puffed up, vanity. Everything's about this beauty and having great riches and money and beauty, but there's no actual substance. There's no being actual true hard worker, laborer, true believer in the Most High, right? Because it's not about all the rich. We could be poor, because that's what the Lord said. Those that are, the Lord is coming for the poor. See, but his thing is to gain is godliness, and that's what they teach you people. You people think gain is godliness, man. You think that means God is with you, right? And there is a God that's with you, and that's Satan, the God of this world, which is Satan, which Esau, Edom, is his physical counterpart on the earth. And so through all that gain, through riches, right, through his wisdom, right? Matter of fact, yeah, let me come here first, right? Because that's how he did it, through gain, through his great wisdom, his thing that lifted him up, you know what I mean? And part of that wisdom is what? It says, but thou, O Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book even to the time of the end. And so where at the time Yahushai has lifted off the seals, right? And the elect is being sealed. If not, they're already sealed, but they're definitely being sealed. It was there, yeah, before the foundation of the world, they were sealed, but there's a, time of prophecy, things that have to come to pass as far as what's going on, as far as the time lap and time format of prophecy to lay out, right? And so now we're at the time of the end, but there's still things that need to happen. You know what I mean? The race wars, the famine, the pestilence, right? Then they got to come in, like I said, the next thing is what? When that happens, what? They're going to bring in the micro CHIP, the surveillance. And with that great surveillance come with what? And many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall increase. So what are they talking about? AI. AI has the ability to be autonomous, and it can learn of its own. So now you're in a time that knowledge has very well so much increased, and his head is lifted up. He's God, right? Right? Yeah. So yeah, this is Psalms 10 and 8. It says he sitteth in lurking places, through his police, ICE agents, Marines, Navy, military. They're all sitting in lurking places. Ultimately, they come against the Israelites, but they're gonna have to fight this World War III also, right? There's a lot of things that's going on, right? But because of that knowledge, that wisdom, because knowledge has increased, the technology is there. They have the AI, the autonomous AI, and things like that, and they're going to use the surveillance with Palantir to their advantage, And it says, he sitteth in lurking places of the villages, right? In different, all over America. They're gonna do this, right? Doeth he murder the innocent? See, and those that don't comply, they already telling you, if you don't comply, you will die, right? Expect no mercy. These are the things that they're speaking of to bring in that Novus Ordo Seclorum, right? To bring in the microchip, which is the mark of the beast, right? See, meanwhile, a coconut is bragging about some stuff. He has no idea. You don't have no idea what's going on. That's why the scriptures speak about how the children of this world is wiser than the children of light, and the children of this world will be Esau, the Edomites, right? Because their God is Satan. The God of this world is Satan. So they're the children of this world, which their God is Satan, right? And they know what's going on, and you don't know what's going on. That's the reason why they're rallying, they're fighting. I seen a thing. Wish I could find it, but there was a video where the dude was speaking about how he's happy that they're getting organized, that there are even Edomites coming from Canada to come over to America so they can be trained, so they can get ready for the race wars. Meanwhile, you're over here spewing a bunch of empty rhetoric, sounding like your master, right? It says, meanwhile, he's being a wound is being laid under him through the people who come here and receive your so-called benefits, but even these other nations that receive benefits. Main one is Pizrael, right? Right? The small hatters, right? You wish, right? If you wish, right? If you wish, you wish, right? So you get understanding, hey, they're the biggest recipients, So it says, his eyes, and which that's what they're doing right now. Do you know how many so-called Mexicans have been found hanging from trees as well as Jake? Lots of them at this point. So his eyes are privily set against the poor, right? You're in the ghettos, the vadios, the reservations, and their eyes are set against you. They know who we are, man. You don't know who you are. It says he lieth in wait secretly as a lion, right? And what did the Lord say about him? He's a roaring lion seeking whom he may devour, right? He go about, right? Right? And that's what he's been doing, going about the entire globe, seeking whom he may devour, right? And normally it's someone who's poor, who don't have the type of a weaponry or whatever that he has, and he attacks that. And especially don't let you have some type of mineral or some type of thing that they want that they can exploit, right? Throughout the entire globe, right? Because that's what they do, right? And he says, secretly as a lion in his den, he lieth in wait to catch the poor. He doeth catch the poor. Yeah. It's not hard when you got Palantir. It's not hard when you got cameras on every corner to catch the poor. It's not hard when you got police and you got militarized police because they've been getting trained by Pizrael, right? For the last 10 years, 15 years, whatever it is, right? Right? Just so they can show their hatred towards you Jakes, you so-called Negro, Latino, and Native American. It says when he draweth him into his net, right? And what's going to be the greatest net that they're going to draw everyone into? This internet, right? Because this is more talking about a trap. But you know, that's what the ghetto is, a trap. That's what Jake talk about. I'm in the trap hustling. I'm in the trap. But the ultimate trap is going to be the entire globe. The entire globe is going to be a prison. No matter where you at, there's 15-minute cities in every place. So all these people are in cahoots, right? They're in cahoots ultimately against you, against the tabernacles of David, ultimately. So they're really against Yahweh and his only begotten son, Yahweh Shai. They're against Yahweh Bashem, Yahweh Shai Bashem, Rakak Wadash. So you know they're going to lose. So why? You know what I'm saying? He croucheth and humble himself that the poor may fall by his strong ones, by his military. And you've seen that where the police or the military or somebody will come. I don't think that's right. They shouldn't do those people like that. I don't care what you say, but you're only one person. You know what I'm saying? Let's see a platoon or whatever's bigger than a platoon of you stand behind that and actually stand up and say, I'm going to fight with the so-called Negro, Latino, Native American. Then I might believe you. But even then, I mean, hey, all it is just sweet words, man. You know, or say it is one person or whatever. Hey, we don't never trust thy enemy, man. Right? Yeah. So yeah. So you try to get you by his strong ones, and then right here it says, and it says he hath said in his heart meaning La'ab, his mind, God has forgotten, right? So you figure, hey, y'all been in the ghettos, the vadios, the reservations so long. Look at what they've done. Look what the Lord allowed him to do. If there's a God, how he allowed me to push, you know, HI to the V in these neighborhoods, right? You know, different STDs and this and that, so on and so forth. Crack, heroin, right? God must have forgot about you, right? God can't possibly love these people, right? You know, look how I actually treated them. I took their music, flipped it, had them use 808 with a different frequency, and this frequency builds anger and negativity, and then I put lead and this and that in the paint and the malt liquor. I also sprayed in the air. So where's your God, right? God has forgotten. He hideth his face, right? And that's true. We do have a God that hideth his face, but we're at the time that the Lord is now revealing himself. But this is Esau. He feel like, hey, I'm God. God forgot, so I'm God. I'm your God. I'm gonna push the micro C hip, and you're gonna bow down to me. You're gonna worship me. You're gonna worship my system, my beast system. You're gonna worship my rulership. You're gonna worship white supremacy. right? Because that's ultimately what it is. You know, he will never see it. Yeah, see, the Lord feel like the Lord ain't gonna never see what he's doing. That he's oppressing, you Jakes, you Israelites. But a lot of you're not Israelites, right? Like this dude, he's a coconut, man, right? Speaking of some things that, hey, he don't know what's going on, right? Yeah, so this is 2 Thessalonians 2 and 3. It says, let no man deceive you by any means. And saying that's his MO, to deceive you. You know, he's a Christian, he's a pilgrim, right? You know. And hey, nowhere in the Bible does it talks about being pilgrims except for the Apocrypha, which they said it's not canon. So, you know, how do pilgrim mean you're a Christian? Well, that the only time I see it ever mentioned is in the Apocrypha. I mean, you know, I'm speaking as a man as far as I've seen, right? You know, so, you know, it tells you that Satan transformed himself into an angel of light. You know, that's what this guy is basically what he was saying. You know, speaking as if America is a Christian nation, which even when you're going to the thing Christian, it was a derogatory term. It wasn't like a great term that was endured on. But that's what Americans they look at it as a badge of honor. But you know, that was never so. Right, which is even still now, the real Christians are the Israelites, the so-called Black, Hispanic, and Native Indian who have returned to the power Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. Those are the true Christians, and it's not a term looked on as good, because what do you call them? Black Hebrew Israelites, sort of like what you call them now, Barnabas and was it Saul and Barnabas? Right, or the Apostle Paul and Barnabas, which we'll call the black man or nigger, right? Where they were teaching, right? You know, so it wasn't like a great thing that to be taught, be called that, right? All right, there, even in ICE. Yeah, see. Meanwhile, ICE is jamming up your people, right? So it says, except those days, just let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come except there come a falling away first. Right, 70 A.D. we fell away, went into the different places, Asia and Western Asia, right, which they call Europe, Eurasia, right, went to different parts of the world, and then of course, we've got taken into cargo slave ships, right? They make their money by what? Traffic, right? So went to cargo slave ships, all around the world, and it says falling away first, and that man of sin, right, which is Esau, Edom. Right, the self-proclaimed so-called white man, be revealed, the son of what? A perdition, of destruction. And that's what this place is about to be. America's about to be destroyed, right? It says, who oppressed, right, and exalted himself above all that is called the power, right, the Most High, right, Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, right? He exalted himself. He said that he's God, right? He made the Lord, the God of the Israelites, a pale male. Who ultimately, that's leprosy, a clean leopard, but still leprosy. It's really a sin. You're to be taken out of the congregation, right? And then when you're a clean leopard, I mean, again, you could be around, but people are gonna look at you different. You're not gonna be. It's not nothing that you can brag about. Yeah, I'm the so-called leprosy man, and I'm this, and I'm no. You're the only one who, hey, but the Lord said, hey, that power you got, the wealth and the power and the understanding, the technology, things you got, it allows you to be lifted up, because now people forgot that paleness is weird. Every other nation has a high level of melanin, within them, but you're the only one that don't. Going around the world bragging, talking tough, speaking right. You know what I'm saying? Speaking great things, that you ought not to be speaking, right? And exalted himself above all that is called God, and that's what you do. Now you're God, because you figure God don't see; He don't see nothing, or that is worshipped, so that He, as God, see now hey, wait a minute, I'm God. I got Palantir. I got this and that. I got the ability to put a micro C hip in you, or in your head, or in your right hand or your left hand, in your forehead, or your right hand or your left hand, or your hands, as the scriptures say, right? And I can do JC like miracles, which there was never a JC. So really, Yahweh Shai, you're saying you're blaspheming against Yahweh Shai, man. Which that's basically ultimately your ultimate sin, because you blaspheme against the Holy Spirit. That's why you can't be forgiven. And people wonder why we say what we say, but it's because you blaspheme against the Holy Spirit. See, that's why you can't be forgiven. And ultimately, the Lord set it up from the beginning, right? Tells you that in Romans 9. That before any of them be done bad or good in the womb, the Lord already put by Esau. He didn't choose you. He chose Jacob, which became Israel, right? Which is the forefather of the so-called Negro, Latino, and Native American, right? But you see, and that he, as God, sitteth in the temple of God, right, of the Most High, Yahweh Bashem Shai, and that's part of that is you being in that land, in the land of Israel, controlling the entire globe, right? Which the prophecy said you would do that. There would be a bastard that dwell in Ashdod. It tells you that in what Ezekiel 35 as well, right? You would take the possessions. Joel said you divide the Lord's portion, divide His land. In Joel 3, right? But this is all from deceitfulness and pride of your heart, right? And sitteth in the temple of God, of the Most High, Yahweh Bashem Shai, showing that Himself, that He is a God. See, and that's what you're doing to the Palantir, through all these different things, coming in, showing your what is it called, showing that you're a dragon, being the draconial laws, draconial measures. Yeah, so this is Ezekiel chapter 28, verse 6. Says, therefore, thus saith the Lord, power of the Most High, Yahweh Bashem Shai, because thou hast set thy heart as the heart of God, right? That's their mindset. Now that they have this power, everything's in position. They got all this money. They're multi-trillionaires. And they have the military. They have the military in every country behind them, right? That they all have to protect the the Rothschilds, basically, and then whoever's over the Rothschilds, because to have that name out there, and then there's people that you haven't seen or haven't heard of. There's names you haven't heard of, so it's probably some name that you ain't even heard of that goes back. That's probably still related to the Rothschild, that maybe go back further, So it says, behold, which means feast your eyes, look, pay attention. Therefore, I will bring strangers upon thee, right? See, and that's America. See, now they're joining militaries with Israel, with the U-ish, right? And so now we can really truly call this Basra. So the Lord said, who shall bring me to the strong city? Who is this with thy garments coming from Basra, right? So it's going to be a lot of destruction happening in Basra, which also is spiritually another term for America. The terrible of the nations, right? So Russia, China, North Korea, just to name a few. And they shall draw their swords, right? The ICBM missiles, hypersonic ICBM missiles, against the beauty of thy wisdom. See, all that Palantir, all that this intelligence and this and that and all this stuff that you thought was going to be to your benefits, manipulating everyone to come against the Israelites. They're going to realize it wasn't worth the, it wasn't worth the squeeze, right? The lemonade wasn't worth the squeeze, right? You know what I mean? They're getting all sour with no sugar, no sweet. right? Because it ain't even a bittersweet. It's gonna tear you apart, man, rip you apart. So that's why your allies and everything are gonna come against you. Those that hate you, they're gonna lay a wound under you. Those that hate you, they're gonna burn your flesh with fire, which is the ICBM missiles, and that's what that is. The sword meaning the ICBM missiles, right? Against the beauty of thy wisdom. See, it's all that this so-called intelligence and this great AI and all this stuff that you thought was going to be the benefit that pushes forth your kingdom. You know that your kingdom shall be forever. Hey, no dice, not going to happen. It says, and this is ultimately the Most High is doing this, right? That's the Most High, because you thought you were the Most High. This is what the Most High is going to do, and that's Esau Edom, right? He thinks he's God, right? And it says, they shall defile thy brightness. Ooh, nice, you know. So all that your lie IQ, your smartness, the things you say, you're about to implode on yourself, bro. Your whole thing is you're doing way too many things at one time, right? You think you could come against the Israelites, fight Russia, China, North Korea, and you're running out of ammunition against Iran and fight the Lord? Well, we're the apple of his eye, and of course, even your own scientists said that your technology is at least, which really is more than that, but even that's ridiculous for someone's technology to be 1,000 years more advanced than mine. But I think I'm gonna go fight that person. Forget about it, bro. Yeah, so with all that, I want to give all praises, all honor, and all glory unto Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rachaha Kodash. Double honor to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well and do well. To the elder apostles, bishops in Connecticut, the bishops, the preachers, the teachers, the evangelists, and the four winds preaching in truth and in sincerity, risking your lives more now than ever, the hopeful elect, Shalom, to the Israelite foreigners who phenotype may look like another nation, but bloodline goes back to Israel through your father and have come back to the fold. Shalom to you sisters, your chwatim, who listen and learn under your husband, which is your spiritual leader, with meekness and with silence. Abba Ball, Kwam Yasharala. We got next.